This is one of those moments where you gotta ask yourself, are you gonna like this video? Are you gonna like it? Help me become the new kingpin of YouTube. No, but really, guys, welcome to a bonus video off of the back of that Penguin teaser trailer reaction and breakdown that I did. I said I wanted to take in some of your comments from that video and just basically discuss it a bit more, maybe get a bit more in depth with the trailer, some of the characters we see, go into a bit of discussion series mode with theories and whatnot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're hyped for the Penguin, give this video a like. And Dream Team says here, I love how in the trailer it's called The Batman Saga. I love that. It means they're really going to flesh this universe out, and I cannot wait. And you're completely right, my friend. They really are. And I know a lot of people, when we first heard Matt Reeves call it an epic crime saga, thought that this would be more than 3 movies. I am still very adamant, just like what Matt Reeves has said before. The idea is for a trilogy, but the saga aspect of it, granted that a trilogy is still and can still be considered a saga, the saga's building out in so many more ways, such as the Penguin series, of course, and this is fleshing and actually bridging out this universe from the Batman Part 1 to Part 2, but we have the Arkham Asylum show, which is going to probably maybe bridge the gap between the Batman Part 2 and Part 3. We still have the GCPD show on the back burner. Apparently it is still in development, but maybe they're just not really worried about like getting that out there anytime soon. If you're thinking, wasn't that like canned? Yes, it kind of was, but then we heard new reports that it is still somewhat alive. It's just that obviously the priority right now with Matt Reeves and Matt Tomlin, they're cooking up the Batman Part 2 script and they're going to go into production this November. We've got the Penguin show actually filming, and we have the showrunner for the Arkham Asylum show who is also writing the episodes. So maybe the GCPD thing is like, we'll get to it eventually, but then there's possibly even more shows. I think a lot of people know that there could be a Catwoman show. That could be also after the Batman Part 2, maybe bridging the gap between Part 3, because don't forget, just like how the Batman released in 2022 of March, we're waiting until October 2025, so it's a long time. It's going to be a similar wait between that of Part 3 as well. So yeah, I know this is not so off topic, but it's just, I wanted to bring this one up because we're all reveling in the flipping Batman saga, and it feels so sweet. Now, the next comment is from Calirion, and this is probably by far one of the more frequent questions I get with regards to the Penguin show. So first off, Calirion says, this first look was so good, exactly what I wanted to see. Gotham visuals, mob politics, Oz being a badass. I feel like he was really emboldened after Carmine's capture and assassination. His ambition was always brimming under the surface, but now his energy feels more explosive and dangerous. I love that they used the same color and font for the title, I completely agree there, and made it really clear how closely this ties to the Batman movies. Now, this is where a lot of people are asking us, given that, how large of a presence do you think Bruce Wayne will be, either seen or unseen? Will it only be an Easter egg style mention in a newspaper you can only catch if you pause the episode and peer at your screen? Or will they be mentioning him by name or talking about how Wayne Enterprises is repairing the sea wall and pumping out the water from downtown Gotham? Or could we even see Bruce on TV standing awkwardly off to the side at a press conference? Is there any chance to see or hear about Batman? Most likely not Pattinson in the suit, but maybe as a shadow or an artist rendering, or maybe another news report on TV. So many possibilities, very hyped for the show. And again, we have another question here from Brian M saying, do you think Pattinson as either Batman or Bruce makes an appearance in this show? I'm split on if it's a good idea or not. And then Raishu even says here, love the teaser, I'm definitely hyped. Couldn't help but think what Batman is doing, but I reckon he's busy helping the citizens of Gotham, but also meeting with Bella Real to use his wealth to help rebuild but improve the sea wall. And the buildings of people that were damaged by the flood. Would be cool to see Bruce awkwardly reading a speech from Bella given to him on live TV, or have the criminal underworld comment about the Batman coming after them, though I'm pretty sure Batman will come for Oz at the end. So I've been talking about this like long before even this teaser trailer came out. And the first thing I do want to say, and this isn't me saying that Batman won't be in it or Bruce Wayne won't be in it, but this is Oz's show, but it's also about the larger, as Clarion said, the mob politics, all of those clawing for power in that of Carmine Falcone's death, the vacuum of power that he left behind. There's going to be a lot of, Sopranos type, like real thick mobster mafia type stuff going on. And I do think that boat needs to sail a bit by itself without Batman getting involved. Now, I know people will say, but if all of this stuff is going on, Batman would be there and doing this, that, and the other all the time. I get what you're saying, and we'll get into that in a second with how he could get involved in all of this. But as Batman said in his opening monologue, I can't be everywhere. But the brilliance about Batman is that they think he's hiding in the shadows, but he is the shadows. The idea of him is everywhere, but realistically, he can't be everywhere. So the important thing I need to call back to here is that this show needs to kind of get on with the power shifts, the power plays from that of Sofia Falcone, maybe Falcone's consigliere, and we'll get into some of the extra characters from the trailer who I didn't necessarily go over when I first reacted to it. We've got Salvatore Maroni's family, his wife there, played by Sofia Falcone. I'm pretty damn sure about that. And all of that needs to kind of flesh out on its own, because if Batman got involved, it would kind of put a halt in it if he kind of kept appearing all the time. So I think that does need to, excuse the word cook here, but it's just the way I can describe it. It needs to cook in the background. And if Batman showed up every bloody day, I feel like this show would be a lot longer than 8 episodes to get through the main story of all of the power plays that Oz makes to eventually have him land on top and be crowned the new kingpin of Gotham. You know, that needs to happen. And as for Batman's lack of involvement in that, it goes back to what I was saying. Even if he is aware about it, he doesn't know every single last minute detail that's going down, or even if he did do his drifter mode reconnaissance, he can't almost really keep tabs on what Sofia's doing, what Penguin's doing, what Maroni's wife is doing, what all of these other people are doing. And even if he wanted to, he would only be able to do so much, or come down and scare the living crap out of Sofia Falcone whilst Oz is off doing this. So the main thing is that all of the gang war stuff needs to play out in the streets of Gotham throughout this show. Also, Bruce could be very busy with everything else in Gotham, as he said in the ending monologue. Lawlessness, looting, everything's about to get crazy. He's going to be a busy man, and not only that, likely as well, in his Bruce Wayne philanthropic kind of mode, as what Clarion said. This is one thing I do think we will see potentially. Reports of Wayne Enterprises helping repair the city wall, helping with, pumping the flooding out. Albeit we do have the government helping with that as well, with that truck that we actually saw in the trailer. Now, that is a FEMA truck, and as some of you pointed out as well, it stands for Federal Emergency Management Agency, and they do come in situations just like this when there's flooding and other similar things. But obviously Wayne Enterprises can help out a lot with what the government are putting in. I mean, I think we all know the government are quite criticized in today's world, even with issues in something like that of a city. So I still wouldn't be surprised if with this flooding they weren't pulling all the weight that they actually could. So when you have a billionaire philanthropist, or at least his parents was, and I think we all know through the conversation with Bella Real, he's trying to maybe get steered more into what his parents did with philanthropy, we could see some Wayne Enterprises efforts in helping rebuild the city. But yeah, that was like a bit of a blabber from me about the kind of situation. Bottom line, the Penguin story needs to go along. If you have Batman in there, it would interrupt quite a bit. His lack of involvement, I don't think will really be a plot hole, because it's kind of believable in the ways I've explained that Bruce probably has a lot in his hand. And that's not to say that we won't actually see him have some kind of involvement. So as Clarion said, what realistic appearances or mentions could we hear? Well, we could have Oz talking about it, or in a meeting with the Maroni family with Sofia Falcone playing Salvatore Maroni's wife, she could mention, or even Michael Kelly's character who could be playing Johnny Vitti, or maybe he's Milos Grappa, who was Falcone's consigliere, and he's just, maybe allied with Sofia Falcone. And either way, you get my point. Like, one of them, I could easily expect that their operations have been interrupted by Batman shutting something down. And there's an easy piece of dialogue that they could fit in there, where it shows you that while this storyline is cooking along with that of the power struggle between all of these gangs, Oz secretly pitting them maybe against each other, maybe pretending to ally himself with the Maroni family, who want nothing more than their seat of power back that Falcone took from Salvatore Maroni through ratting him out 20 years ago, but then really just stabs them both in the back. But either way, with all of this going down, they could still show how Batman is putting an effort in, but obviously he can't be everywhere or at every secret meeting that one of them has. Like that scene in the trailer where we have Maroni's wife interrogating Oswald Cobblepot, likely after his dinner meeting with Sofia Falcone. We even hear in the trailer, and I've seen some other YouTubers misread this line, but when we have Michael Kelly's character enter the room, some people have thought that was Michael Kelly saying, "I was Falcone's right-hand man, they pushed me out." No, it was Oz saying that because he was Falcone's right-hand man. But the interesting part of that line, of which Oz says when we see Michael Kelly come into the room, is he says, "They pushed me out." So even after Falcone died and he was a rat and he got assassinated by Riddler through being shot, and we saw Oz get his gun out and then the GCPD tackled him to the floor, it looks like whatever was left of the Falcone crime syndicate at that point didn't want him involved. Like, they pushed him out. So I think he's saying that line to Maroni's wife, which is why, even though we have Salvatore Maroni behind bars, it looks like, well, this is an opportune moment for Oz to make new friends. He's been pushed out by the Falcone crime syndicate after Falcone's death, likely because of Johnny Vitti, maybe Alberto Falcone not trusting him, maybe Milos Grappa, if that's Michael Kelly's character. I don't know. Again, there's all kinds of power plays. Like, Sofia could be also worried about her own extended family trying to take her father's throne away from her. It gets very complicated. As Calirion said, a lot of mob politics here. But I know I keep blabbering here, but those are some of the details I wanted to touch on in this video with how extended things get. Any single one of them could be talking about how Batman did this, but we need to keep him off our backs. So, like, we're getting a bit of pressure from the bet. Something like that. Now, as for Bruce Wayne, a similar piece of dialogue could be said on the TV. They could be watching the news. They could even reference saying, oh, yeah, that Wayne Foundation is doing this or something like that. But so far, I've only acknowledged references in that of the script lines. I haven't mentioned Robert Pattinson actually appearing himself. So let's get onto that. It is totally possible, especially with regards to maybe just, getting on the Bruce Wayne suit, similar to when he attended the mayor's funeral and just having him on the news, or maybe there's a scene or something like that. But that is quite a minimalist scene. I don't know if they would opt in to shoot that when they could just show some B-roll from the first movie in some kind of situation in where he's just on TV doing something. So I think if he would appear, it would be better to use him as Batman, in where we've had all of the events of the series up until episode 8 of The Penguin happen. Oz becomes the new kingpin of Gotham, but that is when Batman learns about it. I mean, obviously, as I said, maybe he's been putting efforts in to try and see what all of these mobsters are doing in the meantime. Maybe he's had an interaction or two that we might not see on screen but hear about off screen, as I've already aforementioned. But I can imagine if we do see him, they will want to use him very sparingly, and it would have to be for a crucial scene. You don't want to overspend Pattinson. You don't want to overspend Batman. Again, this is Penguin's show, but I do think it'd be pretty cool if, just similar to how when Batman went into the Iceberg Lounge, he literally threw Oz up onto the glass wall and it cracked, and Oz wasn't really too scared, he's like, I'm a proprietor and all of that stuff. But then at the end of the show, when there's this whole new status quo in the criminal underworld of Gotham, Penguin is on top, who knows what horrific things he's managed to pull off, and we have this moment where Batman could come in sheriff mode kind of thing, saying, I'm watching, I know what's happened, and I know who you are right now. But what I think would be really cool is if Oz just didn't really quake in his boots whatsoever, and he's like, I run this town now, and I'm not afraid of you. I mean, I'm not saying this is exactly how the scene is playing out or any of that cheesy dialogue that I just said, but I'm trying to more offer you the vibes of how we've heard that the Penguin series bleeds into the events of the Batman 2's plot. Obviously, Oz is going to become Kingpin and land out on top. If we are going to have Batman in it, my preference would be, and is this likely? I really don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. But if they were to use him, I think it would be better for him to come in where, you know, technically there's an outlaw that's ridden into town. So my analogy there is Oz becoming the new Kingpin. They haven't technically done anything wrong right now that you can prove, but you know they're an outlaw. So the sheriff pays them a visit, and there's a bit of tension there, if you know what I mean. And that would be Batman coming in and saying hi. Kind of like in Batman Year One, where Batman shows up and is like, I see you've been eating well. And he just scares the living crap out of all of the crime families. That kind of feeling, but just saying that I'm keeping an eye on you, Oz. I think the cooler thing is not humiliating Batman, but doing something in that scene where Oz is in his new status, his new Kingpin role, where he almost makes Batman glance twice because Batman didn't expect it. And maybe that could play at the larger thing that Oz has always had to deal with. Everyone underestimates him. Maybe Batman underestimated him. I mean, I think of course he has. Nobody expects Oz within the world of this universe to become Kingpin. And I think it's going to surprise Batman. So when he turns up at the end there, I think he's going to be like, well, damn, Oz. You know, damn. But it will still be like, I've got my eye on you kind of thing. So that's how I would like to see Batman be involved, if at all. I do think it would be a pivotal scene like that, where he comes in a very crucial kind of establishing scene from what happens here on out into the Batman 2. But to use him kind of like popping up here and there in between, like, oh, here's Maroni's wife visiting her husband in jail who's been behind bars for the past 20 years. Or when Oz is meeting Sofia and you just have Batman lurking in the corner. Like, I don't think that stuff's going to happen. The Bruce Wayne stuff, pretty believable. I think more likely to be left to line references from crime families and whatnot, but you could easily show some kind of Robert Pattinson scene, but that would be quite a pleasant surprise. I'm not saying that they're scarce of money, but to spend a lot of money on Robert Pattinson just coming in to just be like, oh yes, you know, I'm Mr. Wayne and I'm trying to, you know, I don't know that that's so easy to do just through lines, but hey, if you do have him show up, make it meaningful. Get him in the bat suit and have like almost like a 30-second scene where it's just like, as I said, Batman comes in, sheriff in town kind of thing, and he's just, you know, touching base with Oz, but kind of impressed low-key at the same time, and see where that leads things. I think it could be really cool to see Oz put his foot down there, because already he's confident, and I think, again, a lot of people haven't realized that before because they underestimate him, but now he gets to, if he has like, literally the title of Kingpin, and he's already bested his enemies by episode 8, you know, the finale of the Penguin series, imagine what it would be like wearing that coat of confidence now. I don't think he would even really be too afraid of the Batman walking up to him, because he's like, you can't touch me, or something like that. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on all of that rambling. Now, up next from First to Last saying, I'm calling it, Oz's mother's dementia accelerates alongside his transformation into the Penguin, and by the end, she won't even recognize her son. And it's left to the audience as to whether it's her dementia or Oz has just changed completely into his supervillain persona. So I don't think the ending there will be like kind of left up to the... I mean, maybe, but I think that's maybe a bit too on the nose, because if you didn't know already, Oz's mother is involved in this. There's going to be a bit of a personal storyline there. Which I think will be surprisingly impactful compared to people just expecting this to be like a full, and it will be like a full-on, you know, play for power amongst the crime families. But I think it will also touch home for Oz in ways as well. And the description for her character is, you know, Frances, female, 70 to 79, series regular, equal parts loving and controlling. She is suffering from early stages of Lewy body dementia, a disease in which hallucinations can be followed by moments of clarity. Oz is close with her and shares everything with her, including his work. Now, I do think that is like a poetic thing to play throughout the show. I mean, the fact that she's suffering with dementia and Penguin himself is going through his own transformation, it will add this kind of sympathetic root to this villain, which I always think makes the best villains. You know, Oz, don't get me wrong, no matter what way you look at him, he is a scumbag. If you were to meet him in a real world, he can shoot people, kill people, and God knows what else he does. He was completely fine with Anna being put in the back of that guy's truck in the Batman movie. Like, he's not a good guy, but people are still multifaceted, they're still human, so offering this storyline storyline with his mother, especially, you know, somebody experiencing such a horrible disease where you don't even remember who you are, let alone other people. But again, as the casting call describes, has moments of clarity. Mirroring that with his own arc of a transformation, I think could lead into all kinds of impactful scenes. And I wonder if maybe even his mother would almost be proud of her son, but by the time he transforms and gets that kingpin status, and he's just like, Mom, I've done it, I've become someone. Maybe he doesn't share absolutely everything, even though it does say that he shares his work with her. She might not recognize that by the end. And I do think the poetic kind of mirroring here is that Oz has become something that he wasn't before. And it's a similar thing to, obviously, his mother, who is suffering with dementia, who is becoming something throughout the episodes of the show, or becoming a shell of her former self that she obviously wasn't before she got the dementia. So I don't know, maybe I'm reading a bit too into that, but I do, no matter what, with your comment here, what I'm saying, there is 100% like this underlying thing that they're trying to do with Penguin's transformation and the relationship with his mother and the illness that she is suffering from. Sebastorexia says, Q&A question, do you think that an assassin or rogues gallery member will be hired or paid to take a hit out on Oswald, similarly to Arkham Origins, having maybe one or even a handful of people all trying to kill him at once? Deadshot or maybe Anarchy, for example. This is tough. I know a lot of people expect some kind of rogues gallery character to appear. We did hear very early rumors, way before the recent Clayface for Batman Part 2 stuff, that maybe Basil Karlo could be in the Penguin series. There's nothing confirming that. I just thought I'd mention it right now. So, I mean, maybe. I mean, Oz is entering a dangerous game. I don't think anyone straight... I mean, maybe they would actually... I was about to say nobody straight away would think it's worth killing him because, again, everyone underestimates him. But as he says in the trailer himself, even after Falcone was about to get put away, was arrested, but got shot, he could have stayed in the Falcone crime syndicate, but he got pushed out, as he says, at this point in the trailer you're seeing on screen right now. So maybe people, instead of just pushing him out, maybe they send someone to kill him. Almost certainly, as the events unfold, if they feel like he's not worth killing or, you know, don't even care or consider him a threat at the beginning, he will become a threat as the episodes unfold, because obviously he's going to become the Kingpin. So by episode 5, 6, 7, he would have done some major things. So maybe at that point, somebody will, you know, maybe whether it's the Maronis, who he might have been formerly allied with, or some segment of the Falcone crime family. And I say segment because I do think we have Sofia, but then you might have Johnny Vitti or Milo Scrapper, all being technically a part of the crime family of Carmine Falcone, but each one feeling like they deserve Carmine Falcone's spot. Kind of like Game of Thrones in a weird way, you know, sometimes there's literally the same family on the Iron Throne, but those people within the family would do things like backstab each other to go higher and higher. But going back to Oz being a threat, yes, so maybe they send someone after him, but would it be somebody who is a comic book rogues gallery character? Now, it is possible. I wouldn't get my hopes up. What I would say is if they don't plan on making a certain character a big part of one of the mainline movies, because again, this is a Batman saga, so there's lots of projects, but I do insist that there's going to be 3 mainline movies, so a trilogy, and the saga speaks to not only the movies, but the spin-off shows. So if there isn't going to be a Rogues Gallery member massively apart, like basically in Paul Dano's Riddler villain role. So if there's not going to be someone in the main villain role, let's just say Victor Zsasz, maybe you could use someone or a character like Victor Zsasz to do something like that, who's hired for a job. Now, some people might, like diehard Victor Zsasz fans might be like, oh, no, but I didn't want him just resign to a spin-off show. I mean, I get what you're saying there, but that could be a way to implement a character like that, still be very faithful with them, still make them a killer for hire. They're not going to be one of the main movie's villains, so why not use him here? So maybe something like that. We can't guarantee anything. It's probably more likely that they would hire or just send one of their goons, like the Falcone Crime Syndicate or one of Maroni's men to do the job, but they could have it as such that Zsasz, I keep using Zsasz as an example because it's just an easy one, he could have been working for one of them anyway, or like one of them, like Michael Kelly's character, could be like, I know a guy who could get this done. And I do think there is a possibility here, because Oz, as I said, by like episode 7, by the finale in episode 8, he would have done some major power moves. So at this point, whoever's left out of the crime families who want to take control in that power vacuum will be clawing for it and be licking their wounds and will not underestimate Oz anymore, and it'll be like, we need to kind of take this guy out. So maybe they will do something as big as that and send in somebody like Victor Zsasz. But please don't get your hopes up. Victor Zsasz is just an example there. We're going to have to wait and see. I do think it is possible because of world building. That would be pretty cool. You're getting like 8 hours of television here. So all in all, you never know. But let me know which other characters you think might not be given the spotlight of one of the main Batman movies, but can also be utilized in a spin-off like The Penguin. And the same applies for the Arkham show, by the way. So much opportunity to bring in characters that if you're not going to use Jonathan Crane, like literally in one of the main movies, or another character like Hugo Strange as the big bad of the Batman Part 2 or Part 3, you can easily bring them in the Arkham show because both those characters could be relevant to either working at Arkham in their early villain modes, because again, this universe, everyone is at their infancy. Same with Barry Keoghan's Joker, same with Paul Dano's Riddler, etc., etc. Same with Penguin. I mean, he's not even Kingpin yet, so you get the idea. Crane could work at Arkham, working on his fear toxin, all of this stuff. Same with Hugo experimenting. So you have to be careful, but they can be implemented in this saga because the saga is not just about the mainline movies, it's about these spin-off shows as well. So as long as it's relevant, as long as there's decent world building there and they're done justice and playing a role that is crucial, is relevant, then that's fine with me and could even lead to some really cool moments. But it's going to be tricky because they could just use someone like one of the men of one of the crime families. Like, hey, I'm going to send one of my goons after you. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, up next from Marla Dude saying, I would love to see other villains pop up as cameos or even like Roman Sionis pre-Black Mask. Now, I think I've talked about this before, but what I will say is I don't know how many other crime families are going to be there. I'm not saying they're not out there, but in this show, I think if they crowd the space with so many other mobster families, all with their own, kingpin as per gang, not necessarily the kingpin of everyone, but as their own boss. For example, one of the casting calls describes one of the characters as a newly crowned kingpin of a notorious mob family with a much younger wife, calm and measured, but with a violent streak when necessary. So there are other gangs out there, but I do think they're mainly got to focus on the main two. So that's the Maroni side and the Falcone side. So what I think will happen if we see other crime families, even maybe Sionis, who knows, is that they will be allied. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a situation of, as with sometimes real world today, or even in the comics, where you have other gangs, but you can't take on the big fish yourself. So to get in on the cut, you choose who you're going to back, right? Who's going to take the Iron Throne? Again with the Game of Thrones analogies here. You don't have every independent house going for the Iron Throne individually. Sometimes you'll back a certain house, and many other houses will get behind the Lannister house, let's say, to go for the Iron Throne, because then you'll be in their favor when they become the king or queen, and you'll be getting all those benefits. But as a result, there's always another house on the opposing side. So in this case, you have the two main houses, Maroni, and then Falcone, right? But then you might have other little gangs who ally with each side and who has the stronger force, right? And Penguin, lo and behold, I think is going to be caught in the middle and really maybe playing both sides. So he kind of rises out on top and sends little tidal waves either side to wipe out both opposing sides, and then those who are backing behind them either fall behind him or I guess drown in the flood. So what I'll say is don't get your hopes up for having other popular gangs really front and center. I think it would be really cool, and I do think there's going to be some awesome surprises in there. So yes, we could see the Sionis family maybe ally themselves with Falcone, because they might think, well, since Carmine Falcone had the throne for 20 years, even though he's dead now, his family still has a chance on coming out on top compared to Maroni's family. They've been out the game for 20 years. Sure, they've wanted it back, but they've never been able to. So are they really going to win now? So we might see other gangs and popular gangs like that fall behind Sofia Falcone or whatever. But for sure, the main focus is going to be on, I think, the Maroni crime family and the Falcone crime syndicate. And let me know who you think could fall behind each side? Who do you think will support the Falcones? Who do you think will support the Maronis? Do you think we could see Sionis supporting one of them? Do you think we could see other mobsters like Rupert Thorne? Or even as Mr. W says here, and I think this would be really cool, I'm really hoping Tony Zuko is in this series. Yeah, we could have Tony Zuko as one of the mob bosses, but again, just rallying behind one of the main sides who are fighting for the criminal throne. Because after all, that's usually how it works. Because think about it, when Falcone owned the city and was basically the mayor for the past 20 years, there was still plenty of gangs in Gotham, but you don't cross the big leader, and that was Falcone. So they all had their own gangs, their own little sectors and whatnot, but they were all kind of working as a united front, and basically Falcone got all the kind of revenue there. Everyone got the cuts, I'm sure, had their own little operations, but they all reported back. That's the kind of thing. So you could have a Zuko gang, you could have Rupert Thorne's gang, you could have the Sionis family, you can have the Maroni family, who's probably been biting their tongue for 20 years, like Shoria Dashalu. But now is her time to finally make a play, as we see in the trailers. And again, Sal may be behind bars, but this is their time more than ever. Tony Zuko would be like pretty impressive though, because you know, a lot of people talk about Dick Grayson, and if he's even referenced in the series, I think a lot of people would be like, oh my god, could this mean that he's going to try and extort the circus that's hosting the Flying Graysons for money, protection money, and when they don't do it, a little snap of the rope, and then, you know, Dick Grayson's parents die. I mean, I'm getting quite ahead of myself right now, but yeah, when you mentioned this, Mr. W, for Tony Zuko, I was like, damn, they actually could. They might not do anything with it, but at least in our headcanon, we know that Tony Zuko could go on to demand protection money, and when he doesn't get it, it leads to the origin story for Dick Grayson. But that's it from me today, guys. I think I blabbered for quite a while, so of course, let me know your own thoughts, your own theories about everything we covered. I read every single comment, so I can't wait to see you expand on what I had to say. Maybe I gave you an idea that made you think, oh, now that you said that, maybe they could be doing this. So if you enjoyed this video and you got this far, I'd really appreciate a like. Do subscribe for more videos like this. Obviously, more coverage on the Batman saga, as of anything from the Arkham show, the mainline movies, to other spin-offs whenever we get it. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.